Hello and welcome to a new video. My name is Anne and we have just come out of Heritage Week, National Heritage Week here in Ireland, and I went to quite a few events. There's one thing that I took from Heritage Week. I took a lot of things from it, but one thing that struck me is that way too few people know about the Historic Environment Viewer, that it exists, where it exists, what you can do with it, how to use it, and all these kinds of things. So I decided to do a video about it. It is run by the National Monument Service. I'm not getting paid by them to do this, so I can voice my own opinion in this, which I will do. So if you don't like opinionated people, you better turn off now. I've been using the Historic Environment Viewer for a long time, and I use it fairly regularly. So I think I know a fair bit about how to use it. Of course, I can't cover every use case, but I will try to mention some that I've come across in the last week during Heritage Week, and also in other cases. Hopefully it will be of use to other people. So it's called the Historic Environment Viewer, or HEV for short, which I might use. And you find it on archaeology.ie linked. So I'll go to that, archaeology. If you're planning to use it quite often, just use a bookmark. I use it very often, so my computer knows, my browser remembers it. I just have to type in heritage here and it'll come up. But if you go to archaeology.ie, you will find a link to a link, which is already not good, but never mind that. So it's on archaeology.ie, but it doesn't mean it's only for archaeologists. It is available for anyone who is interested in history and heritage, built heritage, that is, and so on. So archaeology.ie, and then down here where it says protecting our archaeological heritage, you will find the first link here, Historic Environment Viewer. There are also other things that you can click on. At the last bit here I see it says open data. The Historic Environment Viewer also provides open data, so just because the last thing here says open data doesn't mean that the Historic Environment Viewer doesn't provide open data. So we will click on that, and that brings you to a new page where you get a bit of information, but you want to click on Launch Historic Environment Viewer Application. I will just make everything a bit bigger so you can see it easier. So here, there's also a manual for it if you want to read that, but who likes reading manuals? Not many people. So we click on launch this, and you can see that the new address starts with heritagedatamaps.arches.com. And usually if you open it up for the first time, there will be a pop-up window where you have to agree to their terms and conditions. Because I've already opened this today and have it open all the time, this doesn't pop up for me anymore. A very important thing, or something that is very useful, which you can see in the bottom right corner. There's a little window that says App State, click to restore the map extent and layers visibility where you left off. So if you've used this last week and you just want to check the same site again, you can just click on this. Now I can't remember where I checked last, so I don't know where it's going to bring us next. Nowhere. I don't know why that is. But usually it'll jump to the last location you've looked up. Then another very important thing to say is that at the top here, after where it says Historic Environment Viewer, it says Interim version. This is very important at the moment. Something happened to their map and their database last August, so a year ago now, so it's the first anniversary. I'm being sarcastic. And they haven't been able to fix it since the last year. This has certain repercussions. For example, it means that not a lot of newly discovered sites have been added. And if you report a site that you think hasn't been recorded yet, they won't add it to the database at the moment because it's only in the interim version. It also means that somebody within the last 1 or 2 years might have already reported it. I have encountered this problem. But you still only have this one database, so you have to work with what they're providing. And then you also see that there are links at the top, home for the National Monument Service, home NIAH, which is the Buildings of Ireland website. And then also there is a rec viewer, which is only for ships and boats that very few people will be interested in, but some still might be. And then we have a search window here. at the top left where you can type in a townland name, or you can use GPS coordinates, which you might have gotten somewhere. Sometimes it'll have house names if it is, or castle names if it's a certain castle. I'm prepared this now. I'll just see what happens if I type in Kilkenny Castle. So some addresses will be on it as well, and some manor houses might be on it as well. So if I click on Kilkenny Castle here, it'll jump to Kilkenny Castle. Not the red dot, but just roughly where the Kilkenny Castle is, which is not exactly, it's over here. I don't know exactly how that thing works, so I'll just zoom out again. I don't want to confuse you with all the dots yet. And this is, of course, only for the Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland have their own historic environment viewer. And then we have a historic map layers list here, which is the first edition Ordnance Survey map made between 1837 and 1842, depending on the county. And then the first edition in color. Last edition, that's the same date, I don't know, something's wrong there. Anyway, it has two first editions, color and black and white, the last edition and the 25-inch map, which is in their scan, the 25-inch map is the most precise. We'll get to that. If you open this on your phone and you have allowed your browser to track your location, or your phone to track your location, you can hit this button here on My Location and it should jump to where you are in the landscape if you have connection to GPS satellites. If you're down in some basement, it won't find you. But if you're out in a field somewhere, it should find you. But there might be some settings in your phone that might prevent that. Like my phone doesn't do that, for example, so I always have to type in the townland. And then there is a home button, which we don't really need to use a lot. Before I go on to the other menu, I just want to mention two use cases that come to mind. So I was at an event on Wednesday last week that was held by the County Council of Kilkenny. So all my examples are going to be from Kilkenny because that's what I know best. So I was at this event which was held by the County Council, the Heritage Council, about their Holy Well survey and their Mass Path survey. And they're looking for help from the public, especially with the Holy Wells, because there are certain Holy Wells where they don't have an exact location, only a townland, because it is mentioned in some written source like the Schools Collection. I don't exactly know where they got it from, but usually it's the Schools Collection or maybe Canon Kerrigan, who wrote about the history of the Diocese of Ossory. And of course that was long before GPS, so he didn't provide GPS coordinates. So great difficulties now finding these Holy Wells, because a lot of them have been demolished and it's very difficult to find something that isn't there anymore. So they're hoping that the public will help them, that there is some local tradition in identifying and locating these Holy Wells, and what they want are GPS coordinates. And they're also hoping that maybe people have other Holy Wells that haven't been recorded anywhere else before. And most people who will be informants in that kind of a way will only also be able to give a townland or maybe a field name. I always use Pat Murphy's Field. I don't know why, and I don't even know if there is a field called Pat Murphy's Field, but usually people will know, oh, there's a well in Pat Murphy's Field, for example, and Pat Murphy probably calls it the well field, but the rest of the village calls it Pat Murphy's Field. And that's really no use to anyone, because we don't know where Pat Murphy's Field is, because most of the field names aren't recorded. So what the County Council wants, and also I would like, and because I'm also doing a Holy Well survey, is GPS coordinates, because they're fairly precise depending on how you use them. They don't want GPS coordinates, they want the Irish Transverse Mercator coordinates. I don't know why. They're not in any way more precise or anything, but that's what they want. It also means that they won't be able to publish that as open data, because it has to be GPS to be open data. But that's what they want. This is where the HUV would come in handy, because you can zoom in on your townland. I'm just going to turn something off here so we don't get too distracted. So let's say, so there's one in Ballida in Danesford in County Kilkenny called Mickleswell, where we only know that it is in the townland of Ballida. So let's say I am from Ballydagh and I know where it is. I have a rough idea where it is, but I don't know exactly. Let's pretend I'm from there and I know where it is. So I would type in Ballydagh and then maybe also Kilkenny to make it more precise, because as you know, there are some townlands that you will find in every county, like Newtown, and you will probably also find more than just one. So Ballydagh, Kilkenny, it's gone off now. If there is more than one, it'll show you a whole list and then you have to find the right one. But this is, it jumps to Ballydagh. It should jump to the center of the townland of Ballydagh. I'm not sure if it does that. It doesn't even jump to Ballydagh. It jumps to Cotwell's Rath. That wouldn't happen on OpenStreetMap now, but that's what happens here. So the default view of the map is this. This is the Ordnance Survey, well, formerly known Ordnance Survey map, now called Tailte Eireann, of course. If you can't see where you're going on this, I wouldn't blame you. If you want to change, for example, to satellite view, you can do that. And now I will have to talk about the menu at the top right. Maybe I should have done that first. So at the third from the left, you see that it says Base Map Gallery, and you can open that up. You can also do that on your phone. And then you can already see there are 4 old maps here. The 4 that I've already talked about, first edition, last edition, and 25-inch. And then we have satellite views, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different satellite views. The most recent is the 2013 to 2018 Map Genie, which has the best quality, and it's the most recent, so that's probably what you want to go for. And you can already see that it has cut out Northern Ireland there on the satellite view. It doesn't on the old maps. So you can switch to that one, and then hopefully you'll be able to find the location that you're looking for. So the Holy Well, I mean, is down this lane here, which is called Ballydagh Lane, and it is somewhere here, I think. So let's pretend it's here. I don't know exactly. If I wanted to get the GPS coordinates now for the county council, or just for your own records, you could of course also do that on Google or on OpenStreetMap, but I'm going to show you how to do it on this now, because it is one of the use cases. The green lines, I didn't mention that before, are the townland boundaries, which you can turn on and off. By default, they're turned on. So at the end of this lane somewhere is Mickleswell. You could check against the old maps, of course, if you're not quite sure. I'm not sure it is on the old maps. Let's check. So first edition, you see that looks terrible because they've only scanned it in a way that it is visible on or usable on this zoom level. If you want better resolution, I would recommend you go to the scans that are provided by the National Library of Scotland. They have recently scanned those and the quality is much better and you can zoom in and it's not as blurry. So somewhere here, it doesn't seem to be marked unless it's down here somewhere and I can't see it. These little round things with the blob at the bottom are lime kilns, and they might well still be there because if you remember, this is a very overgrown area and usually that's what it looks like around lime kilns these days. So it's somewhere here. So it's not on that map apparently, if it is somewhere here. The other one is just in color. And then we have the last edition, where I also don't see a spring. It would be a little circle and the word spring or well or W or something like that. And then the 25-inch map, you see the lime kilns are still there. On the 25-inch map, we was finished in 1913. So 80-ish years after the first edition, and the lime kilns are still there. But again, there's no spring or well marked. But let's pretend it is in this triangle here, and you want to get the GPS coordinates. You can just go to the next menu button, or you can close this first. It depends entirely on yourself. So the measurement tool is the one you want, and you click on that. That opens that up. The first one is for an area. So if you wanted to draw an area to find out what the size is, I presume, I've never used this actually, that's what you could use. You can change the unit from square kilometers, which is the default, into acres, square miles, square kilometers, hectares, yards, square feet, square American feet, and square meters. So I'll change it to acres, because that should correspond with the number here, I think. And then I can draw the outline of the field. And I guess I have to do something to finish this. Double click. Yeah, you double click to finish the drawing. And then on the right hand side, you see that it's 6.88 acres, which is roughly 6.639, which it said here. But I had included the path, so maybe I shouldn't have done that. So this is what you can use that for. I'm not quite sure why you would want to do that, but that is an option you have. And then you can measure distances, also in kilometers, miles, feet, meters, yards, and nautical miles. Sometimes that's useful. Again, for holy wells, if you read in Canon Carrigan's description of holy wells that something is 200 yards west of a church ruin, you can change the measurement tool, the distance measuring, to yards, and then draw a line. It would be nicer if it showed you the distance while you're drawing it, because otherwise you'll just have to guess how much 200 yards are, set it, and say, yeah, okay, that was too much. So then you have to clear, and you have to start drawing again, and it doesn't really work. So, but that's, in theory, that's what you could do, is measure distances. But what we really want for the holy well exercise is the location. You can change it from degrees to DMS. So degrees is would be 52.3421, whatever, and DMS has it in with minutes and seconds. Usually doesn't really matter, but I usually work with degrees. So if there was a holy well here now, you can zoom in more. These are all just trees. I think I would set my marker here, and then on the right hand side I get the GPS coordinates, which is what we wanted. You can also see the ITM coordinates at the bottom left here, very small, and if you can fix your mouse pointer, you can manually, with the pen and paper, copy those as well. What you can't do is go over here and copy and paste them, because every time you move your mouse, it'll change the coordinates. But you could also just use the, I'll go into that again, get the GPS coordinates, and then go to Irish Grid Finder, irish.gridreferencefinder.com, where you can convert them. So you just take this, highlight both values, copy them. Either you go right click copy, or you use your keyboard and use Control-C, and then you can just paste them in here, go into the lat field for latitude, paste them, and it should usually, or maybe it doesn't. I might have to copy the longitude from the first field into the second as well. If they were comma separated here, it would automatically distribute them into the two fields. So let's say if I go to OpenStreetMap, this is a different site now, but if I got the coordinates from here, you see they're comma separated. And if I paste them into the latitude field, they're automatically distributed. The longitude is automatically put into the longitude field. So that would be something worth improving on the HEV. So we'll go back here and do the same exercise again. And if you hit go, it will convert them into all kinds of different references. The grid reference, the ITM is down here. So this is what the council wants. And also when you report a monument, this is what they also want. They prefer, but they have learned to use GPS. And also the UTM, the Universal Transverse Mercator. But if you want to provide open data, you have to use GPS, because that's the international standard. If you want to report a holy well and you want to help the county council, and you want to provide them with coordinates, I mean, they should be able to convert them into their ITM from GPS, but if you want to be super nice, you convert it for them and send that on to them. So that is one use case. Very long story about this, reporting a holy well, or, as I have covered in previous videos, reporting a monument that you think hasn't been recorded yet. Another use case, or let's say a related use case, trying to clear this, yeah. So let's say you know about a holy well in your area and you just want to make sure it isn't recorded yet, so you don't waste the council's time. What you do then is you activate, well, you don't have to activate it because it is actually activated by default. I had just turned it off to not confuse you too much. I'm going to go back to all the default settings. And so that means the Ordnance Survey background, Tailte Eireann. And what is also activated by default is the sites and monuments records, which are the red dots. This is all, usually, as a general rule of thumb, all sites that are pre-1600, and also the National Inventory of Architectural Heritage, i.e. the blue dots, which are usually post-1600. There are some exceptions. So you can already see around Danesford there are lots and lots of sites along the M9. This is because when they built the M9, they took great care to record every monument they came across when they built that. So let's say you know about Ladies Well in Danesford, or Lady Well is usually what it's called, in Danesford, which is in the parish of Danesford, but it's in the townland of Ballydagh, like the other one. And if you know where it is, you'll know that it's this one here. But if you want to use the satellite view instead, in case you have to find your way on a map, so you would come in, if you're coming from Kilkenny or if you're from Danesford, you would come this way here. You would not take Ballydagh Lane, you would take the second one, I don't know what it's called, but you go down here and then you have to take a left turn. And if you go to the Mass, you have to go down this road here and park in this field here, and then walk from the car park down to the Holy Well. If you are a regular attendant of this Holy Well, you will know that. Sure, the locals know, that kind of way. So this is the Holy Well. So it is already recorded. As you can see, it has a red dot and it has a whole description here. When you click on the red dot, it will open this pop-up window, and usually, again, this is only for Kilkenny, there tends to be a description if it's in the northern part of the county. I'm not quite sure what the boundary is at the moment, because the National Monument Service is working on this and they're working their way down from North Kilkenny to South Kilkenny. So you have a better chance of having a description the further north in the county you are. So it gives you the Sites and Monuments Records number, which is this one here. It's KK023075 -- KK means Kilkenny, of course. 023 is the sheet of the original Ordnance Survey paper map. And then 075 is the number of the monument in order of recording. So it was the 75th monument to be recorded on this sheet, I think. Yeah, on this sheet. So it's not the 75th in the county. It's only on sheet 23. Then it has a category. It's in the category Ritual Site Holy Well. There are other ritual sites like holy trees or sacred trees and so on. And then it has the townland, and usually that is correct. Sometimes it's not, though. Then you have a description. In County Kilkenny, it will most likely, if it's not a newer recorded monument, like the ones along the motorway, it will refer to the Ordnance Survey letters and or Canon Kerrigan's The History and Antiquities of the Diocese. I can't say it. The History and Antiquities of the Diocese of Ossory from 1905. Sometimes then also it will mention O'Kelly's place names of County Kilkenny and so on. So according to the description, it says, According to the OS Letters, 1939, there is a holy well called Ladies' Well in the townland of Ballydagh, much venerated still and frequented on the 15th of August by great numbers of devotees. O'Flanagan, 1930, Volume 1, 274-92. O'Kelly, 1996, 180, also mentions this well, stating that it is still frequented on the 15th of August for devotional purposes. Compiled by Jean Farrelly, she works on County Kilkenny and County Tipperary at the moment. Date of upload 24th of August 2021. So this is recently updated because it has the 2021 date on it. If you go further afield, you might come across much older dates. I think the last one was in 2013, the last big update. And you're not very likely to find any 2024 ones because of the interim version. And then, so in brackets here, it gives the author's name, the year of the publication, the volume, and the page number. So you can check against that usually. And then it tells you what it was labeled at, or if it was at all, on the 6-inch first edition, which we can switch on. So here's the first edition, and you can see it says Ladies' Well. It is actually called now Lady Well by the locals. I don't know if this maybe is Mickle's Well up here. There seems to be a spring anyway, and a stream running that way. Could be it. I will find out at some point, hopefully. So this is the first edition. And then in the latest edition, it says it is also labeled as Ladies' Well, which we can confirm. I'll go back to satellite mode. Don't know, what did I have before? I can't remember. Anyway. And then it gives the ITM coordinates, which is the ones they prefer, and the longitude and latitude, so the GPS. You can also zoom to it, which will probably only work in certain layers. I'll just close this again. So you see there's a grayish thing here. That's because there's concrete poured all around it. And then there's like a basin, a pond. And up here there's a Marian statue. And the little stream runs off. It's very hard to see, but I've been there twice now. A little stream runs off and joins this stream here, which I'm sure also has a name, which I don't know. And then you can see it has these 3 dots here. And if you click on that, you can pan to. I don't actually know what that means. It just, I presume it centers it on your screen. I don't know if you want to take a screenshot and you want it in the center, or I don't know what you would use that for. Add a marker. So that adds a marker there. Maybe there's a way to export that after. I don't know. I've never used that. And then the last one is view in attribute table. That is sometimes interesting. And that shows you the whole data set for this holy well. So you have an object ID, which I presume is randomly attributed. Then you have an entity ID, which starts with KK, which stands for Kilkenny. 023, I presume, again, that refers to the sheet in the Ordnance Survey map. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I'm only guessing for some of these things because I wasn't trained by the National Monument Service. Then we have a class code, which is HOWE. I presume that stands for Holy Well. The SMR number, which is the same that we have up here, of course. And the dashes sometimes are important. The county is Kilkenny, the townland is Ballydagh, the zone ID, I have no idea what that is. Then we have the ITM, northing and easting, longitude and latitude, a monument class, I presume that's similar to the class code, what it says on the first edition, the last edition, a website link. So if you want to quote this, for example, if you're watching my channel regularly, you might know that I've created Wikidata entries for all the holy wells in County Kilkenny, and I have added the SMR number with the reference URL. So this is where I got the reference URL from. If you're using it on your phone, it'll be very difficult to get through the attributes table. I've tried and I've failed, and I even have difficulties on my laptop where I have a smaller screen. it's kind of a bit awkward to get to this. It is possible, but it's easier the bigger the screen is, unfortunately. But this is a link you can use when you're quoting this. And if they change their URL, which they might, once they fix the thing and it's no longer an interim version, all the links, of course, will change. And hopefully they will remember to have a forwarding thing, a redirect set up. And then we have the web notes, which is the whole text that you saw in there. So basically what they have in this window, they're using a lot of placeholders. So source code of that website, it will just have the description and then a placeholder for this, which they grab from this table here, and the same for what's said in everything that has bold lettering. The information that comes after is fed from this table, so they don't have to code every single window, if you get me. And then there's two other things, and they used to have, for the blue dots at least, and maybe also for some of the red dots, they used to have photographs, which they've also lost last August, and they haven't put them back in, unfortunately. So when I upload photographs to Wikimedia, I usually add the SMR number to either the photograph or the whole category, if it's a category for like that wholly well. And that automatically puts them in a new category, which is called Objects of County Kilkenny recorded in the Archaeological Survey of Ireland with known IDs. Bit of a mouthful, and sometimes I do forget. I've just added this to the Ladywell, but you can find a lot of sites already recorded on Wikimedia, which of course the National Monument Service could use if they wanted to, because most of them are open data and have a copyright license that allows that. So you see, these are all whole categories that have their SMR number attached, and then there are a lot of photographs that might not have their own category, and I might have to sort through all that again. So there's a lot there. So that's another use case for the HEV. Another one, very important one that came painfully apparent in the last week, is that you might have heard of, is the Check Before You Dig initiative by the National Monument Service. So if you own land and you decide to dig on it, and I don't mean, a child with a little shovel and a bucket, but if you're planning to build something like a trench or a shed or a house, you should check the HEV before, because there might be a monument that you are not aware of, because maybe you bought the land and nobody told you, or you think it's far away from the structure that is protected, I'll be grand. You might not be. So what you do there is, again, you go into your HEV, you can type in the townland. I'll show you an example of how not to do it. So Castle Inch or Inchihulen or whatever, however you pronounce it, is also in County Kilkenny. And it has come to my attention that somebody has built a house here. And if you know Castle Inch, you'll know that there used to be a castle here, which is recorded on the HEV. And there is a certain area around every monument that is protected, and where when you're putting your planning application, you should check that your planned building is not in that area. And if you want to know what that area is, you have to go to the layer list, and we have the Sites and Monuments records highlighted or activated, and the National Inventory of Architectural Heritage. And what you want to activate is the SMR Zone, which draws a circle around the monument. And you see there are actually two circles there, because the area around the castle is protected, and also the area around the graveyard is protected, because sometimes, a castle isn't just a dot. You have the castle building, which is already gone, but you have a bawn around it, and there might have been other buildings, settlement structures around it. So there is a certain radius around these monuments where an archaeologist should be consulted when you're building something. And the same around the graveyard. There could be people buried outside the graveyard, like unbaptized children, or other people that might not have had the permission to be buried in the graveyard. And also the graveyard might have been much bigger at some point, or there might have been a monastic site around it that is not terribly known about. So to show you the building that has been built there within the last 3 years. So this house here, you see it's not even on satellite view yet because it was only built after 2021. They get their planning permission accepted in 2021. This is all online. All the planning applications you can find online. That's how I looked it up. And they got their planning permission, I think, in June of 2021. And they built their 2-story house here. And you can see not only is it in the area around the castle, but it even is part of these 2 areas. This part of the house is part of the graveyard protected area. And maybe the people didn't know that there was, I'm pretty sure they knew that there was a castle because I know who the people are. And also this field here is called the Castle Field. It's a bit of a giveaway that you really shouldn't build there. But also the planning office, in my opinion, didn't do their due diligence and they didn't check that this is a protected area. The people, when they put in their planning application, they ticked a box, I can show you that on the screen, that the proposed site was not close to a protected structure, which it clearly is. So I don't know if they were just ignorant or if they were trying to chances. I don't want to make a judgment on that because I don't want to be sued for slander or something. But they should have ticked yes in this box, and they didn't. And then the planning office didn't do their due diligence because they would have easily found, this is available for anyone. It is accessible for anyone to see that this is an absolute no-go to build there, at least without an archaeologist on site. So that is what happens all the time, and it's not the only case. I've been mapping in East Mayo for the last couple of months, and there are so many sites where people have built on a rath or even on a Killeen. There's one case, and it just seems to happen all the time, and it shouldn't really in this day and age when all this information is available to anyone on the internet, easily accessible. I don't know why people don't do it. It's very sad because there's things destroyed now probably that we can't bring back, and it's gone. And it's very sad, in my opinion. Another way you could use the HEV is that you can search for a certain type of monument. Let's say you've recently become interested in Sheila gigs, and who could blame you? And you want to know where all the Sheila gigs in County Kilkenny are. You can use that for any county, of course, but I'm just going to stick with Kilkenny. And you would use the search function up here, a query. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th from the left. The 5th from the left on top. And you have to decide between Sites and Monuments Records and National Inventory of Architectural Heritage. And if you've already done a little bit of research into Sheila gigs, you'll know that they tend to be pre-1600. So you're going for the red dots, so to speak, the Sites and Monuments. And the first thing is you choose your county. And you can choose a townland, but for this search that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. If you were looking for a Fullacht Fies or something that is more, or Ringfords, that makes a lot more sense. Or if you're researching a certain townland for a local history publication or something, you might want to choose just a townland, but you can also choose more than one. But we're just not going to select any townland, but we're going to go for the monument class. And that's the third drop down. And rather than scrolling down to S for Sheila gig, which you can do, of course, you can just type in Sheila gig. Of course, you have to know that that is a monument class, but it is. And then for some, you have the monument class, and then you have a present location, because some are movable monuments like Sheila gigs or Ogham stones, or sometimes maybe even milestones, even though I don't think there are terribly many pre-1600 milestones. Market crosses, though, can be moved, or certain monument types can be moved. and then it has the present location as a second option there. And then I'd never change any of these. So you can just click apply, and that will find all the Síleanna gigs. There's an interesting case there that I had hoped I wouldn't have to talk about, but now I have to. So you see it displays 8 features, and it shows you the description already. So the first one is in Berlin. The original location is unknown, but it is likely that it came from either Berlin Castle or Berlin Church. I'm trying to think now where that is, I can't quite think of it. And you get all the information you get in the pop-up, you get that on the right-hand side here, and then you could scroll through, and they all seem to have descriptions, which is very lucky. But you might have noticed that there's one down here which is certainly not in Ireland, and especially not in Kilkenny. And if I zoom in, you have to be strong. So this is somewhere in the ocean. There isn't even any map because it's not Ireland. I don't know if I can change to satellite view. It's in the ocean. And I've lost it now. Here. If I zoom in and I click on it, it won't open the Síleanna gig. It usually opens this mill in Offaly, I think. And you can see that it is one of 8,002. So there are 8,002 monuments recorded at this location, which is, I think, 00 in the Irish Transverse Mercator. So this happens when they know there is a monument somewhere, but it has been moved, it's not where it's supposed to be, and they don't exactly know where it is. Or if they know, it's the case with some of the holy wells in County Kilkenny, if it was described by Carrigan in this townland, but they don't exactly know where it is, and they can't put a location on the map because they don't know exactly where it is, they will move them all to this 00 location, and this is how there are 8,002 monuments in the ocean. And they're not just Kilkenny, they're all of the Republic of Ireland. And I'm not sure if they're still moving stuff there, like if they're going on a site visit when they're trying to update this, and they can't find it, and they can't find anyone local to tell them where it has gone. Sometimes people move stuff from graveyards to keep them safe without telling anyone, which is kind of a crime. And then the person from the National Monument Service can't find it, so they can't confirm that it's there, so they have to move it into the ocean. Only digitally, of course. So the last record was 2011, this one is 2020, this one is 2023, so they still seem to move them into the ocean when they do. So Mary Tunney, that sounds familiar, that name, but maybe that's just because it's Tunney. So 2023, they still moved this one, for example. So this is why there are sometimes things in the ocean. And then you have this list. You can't really go and highlight this and copy this into your Word document or whatever. You could do this from here, from the pop-up. So if you click on any of the results on the right-hand side, it'll jump to whatever you were looking for, that Síleanna gig on the map. For example, this one is actually not where it is on the map there, because that's the original location, is in the National Museum, and so on. So if you wanted to export this list, this is only a short list of 8, but if you were doing raths or something, you might have a much longer list, and the workload of copying and pasting that into a spreadsheet or a Word document is unnecessary. And you can export this by clicking on the 3 dots, which opens a new menu. You can zoom to, pan to, flash. This is quite fun. If you do this, it'll just flash all the locations in case you've lost them. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit to show you again how it flashes. Ooh, disco. And then you can export it into a CSV file, which you can open in your Excel. Any program that uses spreadsheets, you don't have to use Microsoft Excel. You can use Open Office Calc, I think it's called, Calculator. Or if there's any other Apple programs that use CSV files, I wouldn't know. You can also use it in the very, very simple text editor, Notepad. if you wanted to. And you can also export it to geojson, which is another open data file format, which gives you more options, which I can't go into now. And then there's a couple more things, like save to my content. There's a lot of things that I've never used, and I'd say the ordinary user will never use ever in their life. But this is what you could do with this little menu here. And I think there's also a way to make your own map and draw stuff on it. But since I've never used that, I've never had the need to use it, I can't really tell you much about that. But there are line tools and area tools and whatever kind of shapes. And I presume you can save that in some way as well. And if you click at the top right, the eye, it gives you more information about this map and who works on it, and lots of links. And the user guide, which I mentioned before. Down here also we have the copyright license. So it's a Creative Commons license, which is an open license, the 4.0. So I think you're allowed to use it for your own research, free of charge. And if you want to publish it in a book or something, you might need permission from Tailte Eireann, especially when you use the Tailte Eireann background layer. And there are restrictions for commercial use. So if you want to make a heritage app for your phone that people have to pay for when they download, you might need special permission for that, but don't quote me on that. What you can't do is, going back to the export, you cannot import all this data into OpenStreetMap because their copyright license is Creative Commons CC BY 4, and OpenStreetMap has a open database license, which is opener than their license. You can check these locations against older maps that are available on OpenStreetMap. We have similar maps available just in better quality for OpenStreetMap. We have the scans that the National Library of Scotland did in the last couple of months. We have the first edition, second edition Ordnance Survey maps, and the British War Office map, which we've had all the time, which is not as good quality. But if you check against those, that should be fine. And also, of course, we're always about ground truth. So if you're adding holy wells, ideally check against the ground if they're still there, or if there's, if there are people in the vicinity that can tell you, oh, it was certainly at this spot. My grandfather told me all the time, or something like that. So don't blindly copy any other. You're not supposed to copy any other maps on OpenStreetMap anyway. There are exceptions like the old out-of-date maps, and there are often out-of-date, which means the holy wells are no longer there. For example, there are a lot more lakes also, or ponds on the first edition map that are no longer there because they've been drained. There are a lot more ring forts, fairy forts, whatever you want to call them, on the first edition Ordnance Survey map that are no longer there because they've been plough leveled, which you can still map as an archaeological site, but we might have to talk about an extra tag to say that they're no longer really there. Okay, I think that covered everything, hopefully. It's a much longer video, I think, than I thought it would be. But hopefully I've covered everything that might come up. If there are any questions and you know me, just approach me. And if not, there's a form somewhere on my YouTube channel where you can contact me. I don't check it terribly often though, because I forget about it. But you can also join our OpenStreetMap Telegram channel or ask a question in our Facebook group, and especially when it's about boundaries or stuff like that, and I mean not personal boundaries but administrative boundaries, there are other people that know maybe a lot more than me about it, or any other topics that I might not be an expert on. Not that I'm an expert or anything really, but there might be other people, because it's a community, it's all about Mehel. You might find someone there who will know the answer. If they're not in that group, they might know someone they can ask, and then they can forward your question and the answer. So we're all about community and helping each other out. Nobody owns any knowledge. We're all about sharing. So please bear that in mind and become part of that movement, please. So thanks very much for watching, and see you soon. Slán.